Many people today are exhausted not simply because they are physically overworked, but because they are internally divided. Constant comparison, constant anxiety, constant self-rejection, always performing, always proving, always pretending.
Peace begins within, where the restless heart learns to be still. Peace becomes a path, where the searching soul remembers its name.
If it's your first time around this neck of the woods, welcome. I am really glad you're here. This is a space where we explore the deeper roots of the ideas that quietly shape our lives. The ideas that shape how we understand ourselves, how we relate to one another, and how we make meaning in a world that often feels fragmented and exhausted. And perhaps fewer ideas matter more in such a world than the idea of peace. So today, I'd like us to reflect on that. Now, the moment we hear the word peace, many of us instinctively think of world peace. We imagine a world with no war, a world with no violence, no corruption, no manipulation, no propaganda, no exploitation. A world where nations cooperate, where truth matters, and a world where people are treated with dignity. And honestly, who wouldn't want that? Because I think deep down, many of us are simply tired. We're tired of conflict, tired of outrage, tired of anxiety, tired of living in a world that so often feels unstable. But if we slow down for just a moment, we also have to face a difficult reality. Peace on that scale is incredibly complicated, not simply because people disagree, but because our world is shaped by competing interests, competing histories, politics, power, economics, culture, religion, fear, trauma, and increasingly confusion about what is even true. Some conflicts have been unfolding for generations. Others are hidden beneath systems most of us will never see or even understand at all. And if we spend too much of our lives staring at the chaos of the world without grounding ourselves somewhere deeper, it doesn't take long before we begin to feel small, powerless, or even anxious, as though peace is nothing more than a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, always visible and yet never quite reachable. But I want to bring peace a little closer today, because while global peace matters deeply, it can often feel distant. It can feel beyond our reach. So I want to share 5 forms of peace that are foundational and far more within our reach than we often realize. Because before we can speak about peace in the world around us, we have to rediscover the places where peace can begin within us. So, number 1, personal peace. And by personal peace, I'm talking about being in that state when your inner world is no longer fighting itself. See, One of the deepest forms of suffering is the war we experience within ourselves. When our mind says one thing, our body says another, our values say another, and our lives move in completely different directions. Many people today are exhausted not simply because they are physically overworked, but because they are internally divided. Constant comparison, constant anxiety, constant self-rejection, always performing, always proving, always pretending. Personal peace begins when we slowly stop waging war against ourselves, when we no longer feel the need to become 10 different versions of ourselves just to feel worthy. It is the moment when our inner world begins to grow quieter. It's not perfect, it's not painless, just simply more whole. See, this kind of peace matters because the conflicts we carry within ourselves rarely stay there. Eventually, they spill into our relationships, into our communities, and the world around us. This is captured beautifully in an ancient African proverb which says, "When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you." And number 2, spiritual peace. And by spiritual peace, I'm talking about that state when your life regains meaning and direction. See, I think many people today are not only tired physically or emotionally, they are actually existentially tired. They no longer know why they matter, what they are building towards, who they are becoming, or what gives their life meaning beyond just, everyday survival. Spiritual peace emerges when your life begins reconnecting with purpose. When your values, your conscience, your relationships, and your way of living begin moving in the same direction. And this does not necessarily mean having all the answers. It means developing enough rootedness that your life is no longer drifting endlessly from distraction to distraction. Like I've always said, human beings need meaning the way lungs need oxygen. Without it, even success begins to feel empty. Number 3, relational peace. And by relational peace, I'm referring to that state when there is peace within the circles where your life is actually lived. See, one of the mistakes many people make is trying to be at peace with everyone. I hate to break it to you. That is impossible. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you. Some relationships are built entirely on conflict, manipulation, or even control. And peace is not always closeness. Sometimes peace looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes peace is quietly stepping away from environments that continually wound your dignity. Relational peace is not about becoming endlessly agreeable. It is about cultivating honesty, trust, safety, forgiveness where possible, and healthy space when necessary. Because the people closest to us shape our nervous system, our emotional health, and our sense of belonging far more than strangers on the internet ever will. A peaceful home may not solve the conflicts of the world, but for the people inside that home, it changes everything. This wisdom is captured beautifully in an ancient Chinese proverb that says, if there is harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. Number 4, environmental peace. And by environmental peace, we're talking about creating environments where life can breathe again. See, human beings are deeply shaped by their environments. And yet, modern life often surrounds people with noise, with overstimulation, disconnection, pollution, hostility, hurry, and even emotional exhaustion. Environmental peace is all about asking, what kind of atmosphere am I living in every day? Not only physically, but also emotionally, digitally, and even socially. Is your environment constantly feeding anxiety, conflict, comparison, and even fear? Or does it allow room for reflection, for rest, for beauty, for silence, for creativity, and even mutual care? I know sometimes this can sound complicated, but it is so simple. It can include everyday practical things like keeping a calmer living space, spending more time in nature, reducing digital overload, building healthier routines, creating spaces where people feel emotionally safe, and even supporting communities where cooperation matters more than constant competition. A peaceful environment reminds the nervous system that survival is not the only mode of existence. It reminds it that life is also meant to be inhabited. Number 5, existential peace. And by existential peace, we're talking about that state where we're able to accept that we cannot control everything. I think one of the greatest sources of modern anxiety is the belief that we're supposed to control everything. And by everything, I actually really mean everything. The future, politics, economics, other people, outcomes, even history itself. But human beings were never designed to carry the weight of the entire world. At some point, peace requires surrender, not passivity or indifference, just simple humility. That recognition that there are limits to what we can solve, what we can fix, what we can predict, and what we can control. And strangely enough, accepting those limits does not weaken us, it frees us. Because when we stop trying to carry everything, we finally have the strength to care well for the things that have actually been entrusted to us. And perhaps that is the quiet invitation behind all of this. Meaningful peace does not begin at the scale of empires. It begins at the scale of human presence. It looks like a quieter mind. It looks like a meaningful life, an honest relationship, a healthy boundary, a peaceful home, a rooted spirit. You see, we may not be able to control the whole world, but you and I can learn how to faithfully inhabit our little corners of it. And that, my friends, matters. Just a quick reminder, this reflection first appeared on Patreon before making its way anywhere else. In fact, Patreon is the starting point of all our reflections. See, at the Home of Meaning, we believe that life-giving spiritual reflections should remain accessible to everyone. And that is why our reflections and conversations will always remain available to all. So, if this resonates with you, I personally invite you to join our free Patreon community and become part of the vision and the conversation. I'll leave the link in the description below. As always, thank you for being here, because learning how to live with wisdom in an anxious world truly, truly matters.
Where the restless heart learns to be still. Peace becomes surrender. What I cannot carry, I release. The home of meaning wishes you peace.